Can you grow enough food for a family in just 30 days? Part 1. The 30-Day Challenge. What if I told you that in exactly 30 days from right now you could be harvesting fresh vegetables from your garden to feed your family? Not just a few leaves here and there, but actual meals worth of food. Sounds impossible, right? Well, stick around because I'm about to show you how families are doing this right now, and the secret isn't what you think. So here's the thing most people don't realize about growing food. We've been told our whole lives that gardening takes months of patience, careful planning, and a whole lot of luck. And while that's true for tomatoes and peppers and all those summer favorites, there's this whole other world of crops that basically sprint from seed to plate. I'm talking lettuce, radishes, spinach, arugula, and a bunch of others that can go from nothing to harvest ready in just 4 weeks. Now before you think this is just about growing a sad little salad, let me paint you a picture. Imagine walking out your back door, even if you only have a small patio or balcony, and cutting fresh lettuce for tonight's dinner. Tomorrow, you pull up a handful of radishes that are crisp and spicy. The next day, you harvest enough spinach to make a side dish for the whole family. This isn't fantasy. This is what happens when you understand which crops are built for speed, and what they need to actually thrive. And let's be honest about why this matters right now. Grocery prices are wild. A container of organic spring mix costs what, $6 or $7? And half the time it goes bad before you even use it all. Meanwhile, a packet of lettuce seeds costs $3 and can give you dozens of harvests if you plant it right. The math makes sense, but only if you can actually get those crops to grow properly. The problem is, most people try this and fail. They plant the seeds, water them, and then wonder why their lettuce is bitter, their radishes are woody, or their spinach just sits there refusing to grow. I see it all the time in gardening groups online. Someone posts a picture of their struggling lettuce with the caption, "What am I doing wrong?" And the answer is usually the same thing. The plants aren't getting what they need fast enough. Here's the truth that nobody really talks about. Fast-growing crops are like athletes training for a sprint. They need the right fuel at the right time, or they're not going anywhere fast. You can't just stick seeds in the ground and hope everything works out. These plants are on a deadline, and if they don't get what they need immediately, they'll either grow slowly and taste terrible, or they'll give up completely and bolt to seed before you can harvest anything. Think about it this way. When you're trying to grow a tomato plant, it has 3 or 4 months to find nutrients in the soil, send roots down deep, and basically figure things out. It can take its time. But lettuce, radishes, they've got 30 days, maybe less. They need everything available immediately, and they need it in the exact form they can use. It's like the difference between training for a marathon versus training for a 100-meter dash. Completely different requirements, completely different approach. So what do these speed demon crops actually need? Well, let's break down the science, without getting too crazy with it. Lettuce and leafy greens are all about nitrogen. They're building leaves as fast as they can, and leaves are basically protein factories, which means they need nitrogen like we need coffee on a Monday morning. Without enough nitrogen in a form they can actually use, your lettuce will grow slow, taste bitter, and probably bolt before you can even harvest it. Radishes are interesting because they're doing 2 jobs at once. Above ground, they're growing leaves. Below ground, they're swelling up that crispy root we actually want to eat. This means they need nitrogen for the leaves, but they also need phosphorus for root development and potassium for overall plant health. Miss any one of these and you'll end up with either all leaves and a tiny root, or a root that's tough and woody instead of crisp and sweet. Spinach is probably the most demanding of the bunch. It wants nitrogen for those dark green leaves, but it also needs a whole array of micronutrients. Iron, magnesium, calcium. All of these play a role in developing those nutrient-dense leaves that make spinach worth growing in the first place. And because spinach grows so fast, it can't wait around for these nutrients to slowly become available. It needs them now. Here's where most gardeners run into trouble. They grab some generic fertilizer, throw it on their garden, and hope for the best. But generic fertilizers are usually designed for slow release over a long growing season. That's great for your tomatoes, but your radishes will be long gone before half those nutrients even become available. Or people go completely organic, which is awesome, but they use things like compost that need time to break down. Again, time is the one thing these fast crops don't have. This is the frustrating part. You want to grow organic, healthy food for your family. You don't want to use synthetic chemicals or weird additives. But you also don't want to wait around forever, hoping that maybe your compost will break down in time for your lettuce to use it. You need something that's both organic and actually available when your plants need it. For years it felt like those two things were opposites. You could have one or the other, but not both. That's where understanding what these plants actually need becomes so important. It's not just about throwing any fertilizer at them, it's about giving them the right nutrients, in the right form, at the right time. And when you do that, when you match what the plants need with what you're giving them, that's when 30-day gardening stops being a dream and starts being something you can actually count on. Let me tell you about my neighbor Sarah. Last spring she decided she wanted to grow some quick salad greens because she was spending a fortune at the farmer's market. She bought good seeds, prepared her soil nicely, planted everything according to the packet instructions. 3 weeks later, she's got these sad, pale little lettuce plants that look like they're barely hanging on. She asked me what went wrong, and honestly, it's the same thing that goes wrong for most people. The soil looked fine. It was dark and rich, had some compost mixed in, seemed perfect. But when you're trying to grow food in 30 days, fine isn't good enough. Those plants needed nutrients available from day one, and the compost in her soil was still breaking down. By the time those nutrients became available, her 30-day window would be closed. This is the gap that most organic gardeners struggle with. We know chemical fertilizers work fast, but nobody wants to dump synthetic chemicals on food their family is going to eat in a month. We want organic, we want safe, but we also want results. For the longest time, it seemed like you had to choose between fast results or organic and safe. You couldn't have both. I spent probably 2 seasons fighting with this exact problem. I'd plant lettuce, and it would grow, but slowly. The leaves would be kind of yellowish instead of deep green. The flavor was always a little off, sometimes bitter, sometimes just bland. I knew it was a nutrient issue, but I didn't want to use synthetic fertilizers. I tried adding more compost, but that didn't really speed things up. I tried fish emulsion, which helped a little, but the smell was absolutely terrible and my neighbors were not happy with me. What changed everything for me, and now for a lot of gardeners I know, was discovering that you actually can have both. The key is finding an organic fertilizer that's already broken down and ready for plants to use immediately. Not something that will work eventually, but something that works now. And it turns out chicken manure that's been properly composted and processed is basically nature's perfect fast-release organic fertilizer. Now, I know what you're thinking. Chicken manure? Really? But hear me out. Fresh chicken manure is way too strong and will burn your plants. It's got way too much nitrogen in forms that are actually toxic to plants if you use it straight. But when it's composted properly, something magical happens. All those nutrients that plants need, the nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, and all those micronutrients, they break down into forms that are immediately available. It's like the difference between eating raw wheat versus eating bread. Same basic ingredients, but one is ready to use right now. The science behind this is actually pretty cool. When chicken manure composts, bacteria break down the complex organic compounds into simpler forms. Nitrogen goes from being locked up in proteins to being available as nitrates and ammonium that plant roots can actually absorb. Phosphorus becomes soluble. All those trace minerals get released, and because this is a natural process, everything stays in balance. Like you're not getting a huge blast of one nutrient and nothing else like you would with synthetic fertilizers. Fancy Chicken took this concept and actually perfected it. They've created this organic formula that gives fast-growing crops exactly what they need, exactly when they need it. The nitrogen is there in a form that lettuce can grab immediately. The phosphorus is ready for radish roots to use today, not next month. All those trace minerals that spinach craves, they're present and available. What I love about using something like Fancy Chicken is that it solves the timing problem. When you're working with a 30-day deadline, you can't afford to wait 2 weeks for your fertilizer to start working. These fast crops start needing nutrients basically as soon as they germinate. That's when they're building their root system and getting ready for their growth sprint. If the food isn't there waiting for them, they start their race already behind and they never catch up. Let me give you some real numbers here because I'm kind of obsessed with tracking this stuff. Last summer, I planted 2 identical rows of lettuce. Same seeds, same soil, same watering schedule. One row got Fancy Chicken mixed into the soil before planting. The other row got nothing but water. After 14 days, the difference was wild. The Fancy Chicken row had plants that were twice as tall with deep green leaves. The control row looked okay, but the leaves were pale and kind of wimpy. By day 25, I harvested the fancy chicken row, beautiful, full heads of lettuce that were crisp and sweet, with no bitterness at all. The control row, I gave it another week because the heads weren't even close to full size. When I finally harvested them at day 32, they were smaller and had started to bolt. Some of them were already bitter. Same seeds, same everything except the nutrients. That's the power of having food available when the plants need it. And here's something else I noticed. The plants that got proper nutrition from the start were healthier overall. They didn't have pest problems like the stressed plants did. Aphids love weak plants, and my control row got hit pretty hard while the fancy chicken row stayed clean. It makes sense when you think about it. A plant that's getting everything it needs can build strong cell walls and produce compounds that naturally defend against pests. A stressed, nutrient-starved plant is basically a target. Okay, so you're probably wondering how to actually make this work in real life, because knowing that fast crops need quick nutrients is one thing, but turning that into actual food on your table is another. Let me walk you through how to set this up so you're actually eating homegrown food in 30 days, not just hoping your plants grow. First, let's talk about the crops themselves. Lettuce is your best friend here. You've got butterhead varieties that mature in about 30 days. Loose leaf lettuce that you can start harvesting even sooner, and romaine that takes maybe 35 days. The trick with lettuce is to plant it in succession. Don't plant all your lettuce at once, or you'll have way too much, all at the same time, and then nothing. Plant a new row every week, and you'll have fresh lettuce basically forever. Radishes are even faster. Some varieties are ready in 22 days. 22 days, that's less than a month, and here's a cool trick. Radishes are great for marking rows of slower crops. You plant radish seeds mixed with carrot seeds, and the radishes come up fast and show you where the row is. By the time the carrots need space, you've already harvested and eaten the radishes. Spinach usually takes about 30 to 40 days, depending on the variety. Baby spinach can be harvested even sooner, and spinach is one of those crops that actually benefits from being harvested young. Those tender baby leaves are more valuable than the full-size ones anyway. Plus, when you harvest young, the plants often grow back for a second cutting. Arugula is another speed champion. It's got this peppery flavor that people either love or hate, but it's ready to harvest in just 25 days or so. And the great thing about arugula is it keeps producing. You cut the leaves, and it grows more. One planting can give you several harvests if you treat it right. Now here's how to actually set this up. About a week before you want to plant, you're going to prepare your soil. This is crucial. If you're planting in the ground, work some fancy chicken into the top 6 inches of soil. If you're using containers, which honestly work great for fast crops, mix it into your potting soil. The reason you do this ahead of time is you want those nutrients fully incorporated and ready to go. I learned this the hard way my first year. I mixed the fertilizer in the same day I planted, and some of my seeds ended up sitting right on top of concentrated fertilizer. Not good. They didn't germinate well, and the ones that did were kind of stunted at first. Now I always give it at least a few days to a week to settle in and distribute evenly through the soil. It makes a huge difference in how evenly everything grows. When you plant your seeds, don't bury them too deep. These are small seeds for the most part, and they don't need to be down there like you're planting treasure. A 1/4 inch for most of them is plenty. Lettuce seeds barely need any soil covering at all. Some people just press them into the surface and barely cover them. And make sure you keep the soil moist but not soaking wet while they're germinating. This usually takes 5 to 10 days depending on the crop and the temperature. Once your seedlings are up and growing, here's where a lot of people mess up. They think the work is done. But remember, these plants are on a tight schedule. Around day 10 or so, when your plants have a few true leaves, give them another light feeding. This is where having something like fancy chicken as a side dressing really pays off. You're giving the plants a boost right when they're about to hit their main growth phase. I usually scratch a little bit into the soil around the plants, being careful not to disturb the roots. Then I water it in well. Within a few days, you can literally see the difference. The plants get this deep green color, and their growth just takes off. It's like they shift into high gear. That mid-season boost is the difference between plants that limp to the finish line and plants that sprint through it. Water is obviously important, but here's something most people don't realize. These fast crops need consistent moisture, not drowning. If the soil dries out, even once, lettuce will bolt. Radishes will crack or get woody. Spinach will just stop growing, but if you keep them too wet, you'll get disease problems. The sweet spot is keeping the soil evenly moist, like a wrung-out sponge. Water in the morning if you can, so any moisture on the leaves dries during the day. Temperature matters a lot too. These are cool season crops for the most part. They grow best when daytime temperatures are in the 60s and 70s. Once it gets into the 80s regularly, lettuce wants to bolt and spinach gets bitter. This is why spring and fall are prime time for 30-day crops. In summer, you can still grow them, but you might need some shade cloth or plant them where they'll get morning sun and afternoon shade. So let's talk about what you actually get out of this, because there's a big difference between growing technically successful crops and actually feeding your family with them. After doing this for a few seasons, here's what I've learned about making 30-day gardening actually practical. 1 well-managed 4x4-foot bed can produce enough lettuce for about 3 to 4 family salads per week if you're planting successively. That might not sound like a ton, but when you consider you're doing this every month, all season long, it adds up. We calculated it once, and we were saving about $40 a month just on salad greens. And that's not even counting the fact that homegrown lettuce tastes completely different from store-bought. There's a sweetness to it that you just don't get from lettuce that's been sitting in a truck for a week. Radishes are more of a bonus crop. They're great, but you're not going to feed your family on radishes alone. Where they shine is adding them to salads, using them as a crunchy snack, or even roasting them, which makes them milder and kind of surprisingly good. A row of radishes gives you maybe 20 to 30 radishes, and that's usually plenty for a couple of weeks of use. Spinach is where you can really produce volume. A good spinach planting can give you multiple harvests if you cut the leaves rather than pulling the whole plant. We've gotten 3 separate harvests from a single spinach planting before it finally gave up. And spinach is so versatile. You can eat it raw in salads, sauté it, put it in smoothies, add it to eggs. It's a workhorse crop. The thing is, none of this happens without the plants having what they need when they need it. I can't stress this enough. The difference between using fancy chicken and not using anything isn't small. It's the difference between plants that race through the entire growth cycle and produce tender, flavorful food versus plants that struggle along and give you tough, bitter results if they produce anything at all. What really opened my eyes was talking to other gardeners who made the switch. There's this woman in my local gardening club who had been trying to grow lettuce for 3 years with mixed results. Some seasons were okay, others were total failures. She couldn't figure out what she was doing differently from year to year. Then she started using fancy chicken, and suddenly every planting was successful. The consistency was what got her. She finally had predictable results instead of just hoping things would work out. What fancy chicken does is remove the guessing game. You're not wondering if your soil has enough nitrogen or if your plants can access the phosphorus they need. You know it's there. You know it's in a form they can use. And because it's organic, you're not worried about chemicals or synthetic additives. It's just properly composted chicken manure, with everything balanced the way nature intended. The organic aspect matters more than people realize, especially when you're eating these crops just 30 days after planting. With synthetic fertilizers, you're always wondering what residue might be left in the leaves. Are there chemicals that didn't fully break down? With organic nutrition like fancy chicken, you know exactly what went into your soil. It's all natural materials that have been composted and broken down. There's nothing artificial, nothing that makes you second guess whether it's safe for your kids to eat. I've talked to a lot of gardeners who've switched to using this approach, and the story is usually the same. They struggled for years trying to grow quick crops with mixed results. Some seasons were okay, others were disappointing. Then they started using a complete organic formula like fancy chicken. And suddenly everything clicked. The plants grew faster, looked healthier, and most importantly tasted better. Here's my challenge to you. Pick one fast-growing crop, just one. Let's say lettuce because it's pretty forgiving. Get some good seeds, prepare a small space, mix in some fancy chicken according to the directions, and plant. Follow the basics. Consistent water, keep an eye on it. Maybe give it a boost feeding around day 10. 30 days from now, see what you have. I'm betting you'll be surprised at what's possible when plants have everything they need right from the start. The beautiful thing about 30-day crops is they're fast enough that you can experiment. If something doesn't work, you haven't lost much time. Try again with a small adjustment. But when it does work, and you're eating a salad made from lettuce that was in the ground that morning, there's something really satisfying about that. You realize that growing food doesn't have to be this months-long commitment. It can be quick, it can be successful, and it can absolutely be part of your regular life. So can you really grow enough food for a family in 30 days? Not all your food, obviously, but enough to make a real difference in your grocery bill and your diet? Absolutely, the science backs it up, the strategy works, and with the right nutrients at the right time, these fast crops will do exactly what they're designed to do. Grow like crazy, and taste amazing. And here's the thing that keeps me doing this year after year. It's not just about saving money or eating organic, it's about knowing exactly where your food comes from. When you cut that lettuce and wash it and put it on the table, you know it wasn't sprayed with anything questionable. You know it didn't travel across the country losing nutrients every day. You know it's as fresh and nutritious as food can possibly be. That peace of mind is worth more than any amount of money you might save. All you have to do is give them what they need and get out of the way. Give these fast-growing crops the organic nutrition they're craving with something like fancy chicken. Keep them watered consistently, and watch them do their thing. They're built for speed, they want to grow. Your job is just to make sure they have the fuel to make it happen. Thanks for watching. Subscribe for more 30-day garden wins.